I'm in crunch time now. I have probably about a week until this deal is gonna close, and I have no buyer. If you don't have a buyer before you lock up a contract, don't lock it up. I need people who have superpowers in finding buyers to come to the table because I have a superpower in getting contracts. What's up, dogs? Welcome back to another episode of the documentary. Last video, we talked about how I left money on the table because I didn't know how to run my numbers the right way. Today, we're gonna talk about how I grew from being a selfish investor to investing in others around me to get the job done. Let's go. All right, so it all started on my third deal. I talked about this deal a little bit in the last couple of videos where I needed to close this deal to get out of the situation that I was in. Mind you, I still had no clue what I was doing. I got this lead, I got this deal from just cold calling, hitting this dialer all day. So once I got the deal, I guess I got it under contract. I knew I got it at a good price this time. I knew my numbers were good. It was a weird property though. The property this looked like a haunted house. Like the door there was no door. When you looked inside, there were trees in the living room. Like you couldn't even walk through the house because there were trees. I never walked through this house. I just assumed it was a tear down property and I was selling it for the land. So what I did was I found some comparables of actual land that was sold in the area and I came up to my number that way. So I wasn't worried about the house. I was just worried about what can be built on the house. So it was a pretty big lot in Baltimore County and a couple houses could have been built. So I knew I had something here. I got this deal under contract. This is when I was just hitting that dial hard. I was cold calling all day until I went to work, of course, but I'm cold calling the dialer, right? Once I get leads that they say they wanted to sell, I would transfer it down onto my notebook of leads that actually want to sell. I didn't have a CRM at the time, so I'm still transferring leads from notebook to notebook. And I knew that I had to follow up with these people. So when I'm following up with these people, I'm following up with them up until I got 2 hours up until I go to work. And while I'm at work through text, email, however I need to get in contact with them, I'm talking to them outside, like while I'm at work. When I'm looking at how I need to get this property under contract and knowing that I can't use this as a house comp because this house is damn near falling apart. Land is completely different from a house. It's just fucking dirt. Like what do you do with this? So I had to figure that out. I ended up getting it under contract I was gambling for what I thought was a good price. I ended up getting a price reduction midway through because I knew it was doing what I did best and just posted this shit on Facebook Marketplace and Facebook groups, hoping that buyers would reach out to me. So after a couple weeks of me not receiving any offers that made any sense, I started to look at these other messages that I was getting on Messenger, and that was, would you JV? JV was something that I was like completely against. Not even against. It was just I was selfish. I didn't want to give up I didn't want to give up 50% of my deal because I felt that I did all the hard work. I felt finding a buyer was the easy part. Because of my past experience, it was so easy for me to find a buyer. I thought finding a buyer was the easy part. And I remember saying this vividly to the person who actually I did this deal with. I told her, I said, you're doing the easy job. You're finding a buyer. I did all the hard work. I wouldn't give you 50%. I'll give you 25%. We can do 75, 25. And she didn't want to do that. So she's like, okay, I respect, shout out to Anna. I respect her for being super professional because she's like, okay, fine. I'm still here if you ever need a buyer. Perfect. She's like, I have buyers. I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm in crunch time now. I have probably about a week until this deal is going to close and I have no buyer. I was doing it the wrong way. If you don't have a buyer within 7 days, matter of fact, if you don't have a buyer before you lock up a contract, don't lock it up. If you don't have one within your inspection period, cancel the contract. Because I'm telling you, you will go through, you don't want to pay your earnest money. You don't want to go through litigations. You don't want to do all that, right? Do the business the right way. That's what I learned the hard way, right? So I was about a week until closing and I have no buyer. I decided to reach back out to Anna. And Anna's like, hey, Daryl, I thought you weren't going to hit me back up. I've been waiting on you. I'm like, perfect. I said, do you still have this buyer that wants to buy this property? She's like, of course I do. He went to go see the property and she brought the buyer to the table. She's like, just get an extension and we're good. I'm like, okay, for how long? She said, give me a week and we're good. I said, perfect. We got the extension. Her buyer came in $16,000 over what we had it under contract for. So I went from about to get $0 to $8,000 because I decided to squat up. I decided to invest in the people around me. And now guess what? I just closed on my 4th deal actually this month with Anna that I've ever done, right? I've closed 4 deals with her. We've made close to $100,000 together. And that's because I decided to squat up and invest in a relationship. So yeah, so if I would have chosen to just stay selfish and have that same mindset of no, it's just me, I would have got $0 on that deal, and I wouldn't have learned as much as I learned, and have this relationship that I have with somebody who she is a beast. She's a dog. You want to talk about dogs? She's a dog. She has a buyer every time I send one her way, right? So relationships are everything, and that's the main thing I learned on this deal. I need to have relationships. 3 things that I've learned in this deal that I use every single day in business today. All right, number 1 is I need to squat up. I need to partner with people who do things better than me and let them do their thing, right? I had this selfish mindset that I need to do this myself. I need to do this myself. I need to do this myself. No, it's not fun that way. It's way more fun when you have other people doing this business with you. Number 2, I need to outsource, right? If I am trying to get contracts and then I'm trying to find buyers and then I'm trying to do transaction coordinating and schedule walkthroughs and do all this stuff, who's getting contracts? Who's making calls to sellers? Who's solving problems? Nobody, right? So what was happening during this time of me trying to find buyers and doing the TC work, nobody was making calls and I wasn't getting contracts. And this led to me not getting any more deals for the next 6 months. And the 3rd thing is relationships. I need to invest in the relationships around me, right? I cannot do everything. You can't do everything. And I want to focus on the important things, the things that I'm good at. I don't need to be, my mentor, Pace Morby, always says, you don't need to cut your own grass. I'm a professional. I don't need to cut my own grass. I will hire somebody who does that, right? So outsource. Transaction coordinator, you need one. Dispo manager, you need one. Outsource, outsource, outsource. So that's it. Those are the 3 things that I learned on this video. If you guys have not already, I don't know how you haven't, subscribe to this channel, like this video, make sure you comment, hit the bell for me as well. It boosts the algorithm. If you learned something today, comment down below what you learned, something that you can implement in your business moving forward. We out of here. Welcome to the Doghouse, baby.
They trying to talk, they not in a bone.